My mother saved the life of Lady Qin, the wife of the Marquis of Weiyuan. To repay my mother, Lady Qin arranged for me to be betrothed to Zhou Fengnian, the fourth son of the Marquis's household. Zhou Fengnian had a rebellious streak and paid me scant attention. He even teamed up with others to torment me. When Lady Qin had him flogged, he refused to bow his head, instead bellowing at me. Who told her to insist on being my fiancé? She's just after wealth and status. Disgusting. After rebirth, I gained profound clarity. All along, what I truly coveted was Zhou Fengnian's unrestrained arrogance fueled by his powerful connections. So I pleaded with Lady Qin to adopt me as her foster daughter. I sought a reliable husband for myself. This too would be a form of repayment. After changing my status, the treatment was markedly different. One word sums it up: bliss. In my past life, I spent my entire existence groveling before Zhou Fengnian, yet never gained his favor. He utterly despised me, a country bumpkin. After the family split, I devised ways to make the shop profitable only for him to call me vulgar. When I learned to read and write, he declared no amount of books could mask my rustic nature. His contempt was never hidden. He refused to share a bed with me, favored his concubines, and let the eldest son from a concubine run the household. In my old age, if I coughed twice, he'd glare at me. Before our marriage, Zhou Fengnian was so rebellious that Lady Qin mentioned she had several other sons and asked if I wanted to marry someone else. But what difference would it make? His other sons would look down on me, an orphaned girl, just the same. Back then, I resented Zhou Fengnian for conspiring with his friends to trick me. Driven by revenge, I insisted on marrying him. I clung to a sliver of hope, believing that if I studied diligently enough, Zhou Fengnian would eventually see me differently. I was too young, utterly ignorant of the truth that you only learn about someone because you care for them. Arranged marriages by parental decree and matchmakers' words could never force a prejudiced man to love me. I regretted it long ago. But I knew there was no undoing the past. And I felt Zhou Fengnian was quite pitiful. My wrong choice harmed him and myself. Hearing Zhou Fengnian's heart-wrenching cries before his death pushed my guilt to its peak. I've been reborn. I've returned to the day Zhou Fengnian and his friends played that cruel prank on me. It was the Mid-Autumn Festival. Song Qi confronted me, his first words a torrent of harsh insults. Before I could respond, his eyes flushed red. It's all your fault. If you hadn't insisted on marrying Fengnian, he wouldn't have jumped into the lake in despair. This terrified me. I urgently demanded an explanation and learned Zhou Fengnian had drowned himself after drinking. Without hesitation, I plunged into the lake to rescue him. I dove again and again, churning the murky water, yet couldn't find even a shred of Zhou Fengnian's clothing. No matter how others pleaded, I refused to come up. What choice did I have? This was Mrs. Qin's son. The powerful seek repayment for favors. She allowed me to marry her son. If she sought revenge, 9 lives wouldn't be enough to pay the price. It wasn't until Lady Qin received word and rushed to the scene. She had me hauled out of the water, seized Song Qi, the one who deceived me, and demanded to know where Zhou Fengnian had gone. Song Qi crumbled, spilling everything like beans spilling from a bamboo tube. Zhou Fengnian had been nearby watching the commotion. Before he could flee, he was caught by the Hou family's servants and dragged all the way to the Zhou family's ancestral hall. Benches were set up. He and his servant were pinned side by side onto the benches. Madame Qin, furious, grabbed his ear and demanded, "Do you know how wrong you are?" Zhou Fengnian refused to bow his head, instead yelling at me, "Who told her to insist on being my fiancé? She's just after wealth and status." Disgusting. This statement jolted me awake from my dazed state after the cold water dousing. It was then I realized I had returned to the year I was 17. Meeting Zhou Fengnian's resentful gaze, I stepped forward to plead, just as I had in my past life, "Madam." Before Zhou Fengnian could sneer, I pointed at his servant. Wang Qian was merely following orders. His crime doesn't warrant this punishment. To guide her son onto the right path, Madame Qin spared no effort. Naturally, she wouldn't assign a lackey who fawned over Zhou Fengnian to serve him. After much deliberation, she chose the sensible Wang Qian. In my past life, Zhou Fengnian getting beaten wasn't a big deal. The servants delivering the blows dared not strike him hard. Wang Qian, however, didn't enjoy such leniency. He never had a say in Zhou Fengnian's presence. Others had long coveted his position. After the beating, the servants deliberately used inferior, ineffective herbs in his medicine, leaving Wang Qin paralyzed from the waist down. As for Zhou Fengnian, after all this time, I still believe he deserved that beating. Had he not provoked my stubbornness, I would have ended our engagement long ago. Then I wouldn't have been forced to endure a lifetime of resentment with him. It was Lady Qin who arranged our marriage in the first place. Unable to defy his mother, he came to pressure me into breaking it off, utterly despicable. Lady Qin placed great importance on my wishes. She immediately ordered Wang Qin released. But she also knew that if Wang Qin returned unscathed, Zhou Fengnian would surely exact revenge. So she simply arranged for him to be assigned other duties. I knew that if I kept watching here, the enforcers wouldn't easily let up. That's why the moment the stick struck Zhou Fengnian, I leaned against the maid, feigning weakness as if I couldn't stand. Madame Qin hurriedly had someone escort me back to my room, urgently asking, "Has the doctor arrived yet?" I changed into fresh clothes and lay down on the bed. She sat on the bedside, sighing repeatedly, "It's my fault. I thought the remaining unmarried sons were all illegitimate and unsuitable for you. I never imagined fourth son would be so stubborn." I lowered my gaze and clasped her hand. "Madam, perhaps we should let it go. A harmonious marriage matters more than anything. I don't understand grand principles, but I know how to work with my mother when fishing. If our hearts aren't in sync, the boat will capsize." She rubbed my icy hands hesitantly. "But have you considered changing your fiancé? Changing now would mean marrying a son of a concubine. How could a son of a concubine repay the debt owed to the mistress?" Her voice faltered as she spoke. "Those sons of concubines, so driven by ambition, none would willingly marry a helpless orphan girl like me." "Ah, madam, why dwell on such debts?" My mother's favor was but a small gesture. I knew my face was pale now, and my smile must look lonely and pitiful. More than being a daughter-in-law, I longed to be Madam's own daughter. Madame Qin's eyes suddenly brightened. Why didn't I think of that? The more she pondered it, the more she agreed. All my life I've longed for a daughter. Yet only sons were born to me. It wasn't just Lady Qin who hadn't borne a daughter. Even the concubines had only given birth to sons. In my previous life, I noticed Lady Qin's particular fondness for girls, especially when elder brother Zhou Fengnian's concubine gave birth to a daughter. By then, Lady Qin had become the matriarch. She personally named this little granddaughter Zhou Mingzhu. Mrs. Qin couldn't hold back her smile as she asked earnestly, "Jiang Yu, do you truly wish to be my daughter?" I gazed at her longingly. Is that really possible?" "Of course it is." Her gaze toward me had grown considerably warmer than before. As warm as it could possibly be. "As soon as the Marquis returns, I'll have him dissolve your betrothal to fourth young master and formally adopt you as my daughter." With matters having reached this point, my goal was finally achieved. It's embarrassing to admit, but Zhou Fengnian was right when he scolded me. I did want to marry him for wealth and prestige. But in my youth, I refused to acknowledge this truth. Only after living longer, reaching the age of an old woman, did I finally understand my true heart. What I sought was nothing more than stable prosperity. To live in the Marquis's mansion, adorned in gold and silver. How could I bear to return to life exposed to wind and rain? A fisherwoman never had a proper home. When her time came, she'd marry another fisherman with no stability. Day after day casting nets. Day after day handling fish with their fishy stench. Through all 4 seasons. Fish in the blazing heat. Chisel through ice in the bitter cold. The very thought of such hopeless days fills me with dread. That's why, even though Zhou Fengnian despised me in my past life, I never once considered leaving him. I do regret it, but only that I didn't grasp this truth sooner. Had I realized earlier that I craved wealth and honor, I would have seen that besides marrying Zhou Fengnian, there was another path to the heavens, becoming Lady Qin's adopted daughter. Immediately, I redirected all the effort I'd poured into pleasing Zhou Fengnian toward Lady Qin, sweetly calling out, "Mother." "Ah." Lady Qin responded happily. She stroked my head tenderly, her voice urgent as she asked Nanny Zhang, "Why isn't the warming medicine ready yet?" I noticed Nanny Zhang's gaze toward me had softened considerably. "This servant will go urge the kitchen at once." Madame Qin stroked my cheek, then ordered someone to fetch the fox fur robe she'd made before the new year. She also remarked that the medicine was too bitter, sending someone to prepare candied fruit. In my past life, at this very moment, Madame Qin would have just finished disciplining her son and be rushing to find a doctor to tend to his injuries, which meant the treatment I was receiving now was meant for Zhou Fengnian. If Madame Qin hadn't been here, I'd be rolling around laughing on the bed. Ah, this feels amazing. This is the privilege of being a daughter. Heaven knows how envious I am of Zhou Fengnian. Why does he always have such wonderful parents to bail him out whenever he messes up? I didn't understand Lady Qin before. I thought her gratitude was just a passing sentiment. I assumed someone of her status wouldn't want to invite gossip, so she'd find ways to repay this favor quickly. I feared that once the debt was repaid, she'd return to a life of hardship, clinging to Zhou Fengnian. I knew I'd suffer, yet I couldn't bring myself to abandon this marriage contract. Later, Zhou Fengnian treated me terribly. Madame Qin regretted it more than once. "If only I'd known. I'd have raised you as my own daughter." Now she's taken her medicine, wrapped in a fox fur robe, a preserved fruit in her mouth. My voice muffled. I urged her, "Mother, I'm fine. Go check on fourth brother." A mother always worries about her children. After tending to me, her daughter, she'd neglected her son. Thinking of it would surely make her feel guilty. So I'd bring it up myself, making her think I was obedient and sensible. Ha 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 ha. Cough cough. I must hold back the laughter. All right. I'll go see fourth brother. Lady Qin frowned at the thought of her son, then smiled again, "But don't tell him about the broken engagement yet. Let him stew in it for a while before mentioning it." I blinked rapidly and nodded vigorously. He deserves to stew in misery. At this point, I'd only been at the home mansion for a year. My constitution wasn't yet delicate. I was tough as nails, enduring both cold and heat. After 3 days of recuperation, I was back to my old self. Madame Qin kept quite a few dogs in her courtyard. The little creatures were utterly adorable. As soon as I recovered, I'd dash over to her courtyard. I'd help her walk the dogs whenever I could, running all over the inner courtyard. When she had free time, she'd keep me by her side. She let me observe how she managed the marquise. Occasionally, she'd pose a question or two. When I answered reasonably well, she'd beam with satisfaction and pride. I'd already mastered these things in my past life. I picked things up instantly, making her teaching feel incredibly rewarding. Once Zhou Fengnian's backside stopped hurting and he could walk again, what he witnessed was Lady Qin growing ever more pleased with me. Fuming with rage, he dragged me aside the moment he stepped outside. Then he warned me viciously, "Don't think flattering my mother will make me like you." Holding the soft little puppy, I pleaded softly, "Fourth brother, you're still young. Don't always resist father and mother's arrangements. You don't understand mother's kindness at all. Preferences are fleeting. Deep, unwavering devotion is just a tale from storybooks. Life is about complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses. Not every girl can tolerate your temper, only I can." Madame Qin often said I have my own merits. I didn't understand before, but time has made me see clearly. Zhou Fengnian's character is exceptionally foul. Not a single kind word ever leaves his mouth. Such behavior among men might be tolerable, but he fails to grasp gender differences. showing no tenderness toward women. Every girl who ever liked him ended up driven away by his temper. Yet he still complains they're too delicate. Even the concubine he later took privately complains about his foul temper. On the surface, he gives her favor, but in reality, she's merely enduring his vile behavior. Other families' daughters are pampered and spoiled. How could they possibly endure his foul temper? Thus, my arrival perfectly matched Lady Chen's criteria for his bride. She didn't expect him to amount to much, only that he settled down. She'd hoped marriage might finally make him sensible. As it turned out, he did become sensible, but not by mellowing his temper, by suddenly becoming ambitious. Because I am quite capable. Even his reckless friend Song-chi remarked while drinking with him, never would have guessed it before. But Jiang-yu really knows how to run a household. Your little life together is way better than mine. Heard she even took the initiative to donate a lot of silver during the recent floods. Even my mom said she's studious but not greedy, generous enough to earn respect. Both were the youngest sons of marquises' wives. Song-chi hasn't been able to live so extravagantly since the family split. My life didn't stagnate just because I couldn't win Zhou Fengnian's favor, otherwise I wouldn't have lasted this long. Now, I don't plan to keep pace with him, but as his future sister-in-law, I still hope he'll pull himself together and stop acting so childish. I know you only learn about someone because you like them, but I also know that affection rarely lasts. Zhou Fengnian scoffed at my words. My parents teach me how to conduct myself. Who do you think you are? And don't call me fourth brother. Who gave you permission? Fine. I curled my lip. But you're overthinking it. I flatter the mistress because I like her. She treats me kindly. Teaches me household management, someone so good. Doesn't she deserve my kindness? Zhou Fengnian couldn't refute that. He glared at me, frowning. You'd better keep thinking that way. I wrenched my hand free. Talk to me properly from now on. Stop this pulling and shoving, it just makes us look ridiculous. He stared down at his rejected hand, frozen in place. Seeing him lost in thought, I turned and slipped away. Better to avoid his temper before he lashed out at me again. The Marquis of Weiyuan would return in 2 days. Lady Chen had already written to him to discuss the matter. The date for dissolving the betrothal and formally adopting me as his foster daughter had been set, awaiting only his return to begin preparations. But that day, before the Marquis of Weiyuan returned, news of Zhou Fengnian's brawl arrived first. At that moment, Lady Chen had invited embroiderers to measure me for garments, select fabrics, and retrieve jewelry from the storeroom. She'd even summoned the most skilled hairdresser, Auntie Zhang, to style my hair. Upon hearing the news, I didn't even have time to remove my ornaments. I hurried outside alongside Lady Chen. With many military officers in her maternal family, Lady Chen promptly seized a horse and insisted on leaving. Fortunately, I had recently learned to ride from her. Now, without any pretense, I didn't wait for the grooms to select a horse but let out a familiar one myself. After mounting, Lady Chen pressed me, "Where is he? What happened? How did he get into a fight?" The servant hurriedly replied, "The fourth young master struck the young master of the Prince of Jinnan's residence. He's currently being detained at the stables and won't be allowed to leave. Fortunately, the cousin from the general's residence is also present, so he hasn't been at a disadvantage." By the time we reached the stables, both parties were in the midst of an argument. Zhou Fengnian was tugging at the collar of a red-clad youth. "If you're going to talk about me, just say it. Watch your language. Why are you pulling her around like that?" The youth with the exquisite features was none other than He Lian, the young master of the Prince of Jinnan's household. Unfazed by the collar grabbing, he shot a sidelong glance and retorted with a flippant tone, "What did I say about her? Which word was wrong? Isn't that just how fisher women are? Who knows how many men one boat has carried? Why can't we speak of it?" These words made Zhou Fengnian clench his fists. ready to strike. I snorted coldly, "You can say it. But why not say it to my face?" The onlookers turned their heads to stare at me. I pushed through the crowd without hesitation, striding straight to the center. With a fierce shove, I knocked Zhou Fengyan aside, took his spot, and grabbed the young man by the collar. "What did I ever do to you? What's this about talking behind my back? Say it to my face." The boy met my fierce glare and stammered, "Who the hell are you?" The words barely left his mouth before his face flushed crimson. Inch by inch, I understood the banter and teasing between men. Such vulgar talk was merely the norm among common folk. Far more explicit rumors circulated daily. But using this against me was a grave mistake. "You don't even know who I am. Yet you stand here gossiping about me, mocking my integrity? Does that make you some paragon of virtue? If you don't clear this up today, I'll go hang myself at your doorstep." Zhou Fengyan chimed in from the side. "Why hang yourself? If you must hang, you should hang him." "Shut up!" I snapped at him, my eyes suddenly stinging. Tears fell in clumps as I shoved the youth's collar away. Pitifully, I ran to Lady Qin, clutched her arm, and began sobbing uncontrollably. "Mother, look at this man. He slanders my honor for no reason at all. I stay home every day and haven't provoked him in the slightest. I'll beat the drum to cry injustice. Or else just let me die." Madame Qin was furious beyond words. "This is utterly outrageous." Then she held me and comforted me for quite some time. Taking advantage of Zhou Fengyan approaching, she grabbed his arm and dragged him away. Before leaving, she didn't forget to throw out one last remark. Knowing full well that Lian was a discarded pawn left behind by the Prince of Jinnan's mansion in Linen, she added, "Don't you have a mother? How could you slander a young lady like this?" If I recall correctly, the same thing happened in my previous life. But by the time I found out, it was already a case of missing the beginning and end. I didn't know what the problem was, only that this incident hindered Zhou Fengyan's future prospects. Reflecting now, the Marquis of Weiyuan's business trip might have involved the Prince of Jinnan's household. Otherwise, Lian wouldn't have deliberately provoked Zhou Fengyan with harsh words just before the Marquis's return, as if intentionally goading him into a violent beating. No sooner had he returned home than Lady Qin turned and slapped Zhou Fengyan across the face. Stunned, Zhou Fengyan cried out, "Mother!" He pointed at me. This time I was clearly defending Jiang Yao's reputation. "Why are you hitting me?" Madame Qin, frustrated beyond words, "Don't call me mother. You're always stirring up trouble. If Jiang Yao hadn't stopped you, would you have beaten him half to death? Have you ever considered why he would provoke you for no reason?" Zhou Fengyan lowered his head, still resentful. "Everything I do is wrong. But if not for my betrothal to Jiang Yao, I'd never have hit anyone. No matter what he said. Why blame only me? Mother?" Hearing this, Lady Qin was so enraged she could only point at him, speechless. Seeing her face turn pale with fury, I charged forward without a word and kicked Zhou Fengyan hard, drawing a howl from him. He lunged forward without thinking, but was stopped by the general's son. He could only point at me and curse, "Jiang Yu, what the hell is wrong with you? Don't think I won't hit a woman." I wasn't about to let him off the hook. "You're the one who bullies me the worst all the time. Now you claim it's for my sake? Clearly, you're the one with the bad temper. Easily provoked. I'm the one who got slandered today. Why didn't I hit anyone? You're brainless enough. Yet you blame Mother solely on me? Trying to shift the blame? Wanting Mother to hate me? Huh?" I couldn't hold back any longer. While others held him down, I rushed over and stomped on him again. After that kick, I hid behind Lady Qin. "Mother, look at fourth brother. He's always picking on me." Zhou Fengyan struggled. "Qin Yu, let me go." "Ah, Jiang Yu, you're asking for it." His face twisted into a terrifying grimace. I was a bit scared he might break free and hit me. I hurriedly urged Lady Qin, "Mother, let's go. Ignore him. Wait for father to return. Let him beat him up. And he'll behave himself." Zhou Fenyan stomped his feet in rage. "He's my father. My mother. What are you shouting about?" But his mother had already been coaxed away by me. I turned back and flashed him a smug smile. Old folks can't handle their anger well. Fortunately, the distraction helped Mrs. Qin calm down. She knew I was worried she'd be driven to her wits' end. She embraced me and sighed, "Only a daughter's heart is tender. If you hadn't reacted so quickly today, Fenyan would have beaten someone badly. We'd have lost our right to complain." Indeed. Compared to Zhou Fenyan, anyone would seem gentle and endearing. I took the tea offered by the maid and handed it to her. "We're family. We must protect our own. Even fourth brother knows to stand up for me when he's out." Seeing I wasn't angry with Zhou Fenyan, Lady Qin breathed a sigh of relief and took a sip of tea. Just then, Matron Zheng entered and announced, "The cousin has arrived." I started to rise, but the teacup was placed before me. Lady Qin said, "We're all family here. No need to withdraw." What needed to be heard now was perhaps something only family could hear. Was this how she treated family? Holding the teacup, I was so happy I forgot to set it down. Qin Yu entered and saw me. He murmured, "Aunt, word has come from father that He Lian has gone to the palace to lodge a complaint." Madame Qin frowned. "His Majesty knows everything that happens outside the palace. That boy going to lodge a complaint? He'll likely be punished. Perhaps he has other motives for going." This reminded me of the Jinan prince's mansion's fate in my past life. Back then, the heir apparent was deposed. It wasn't Helian's three brothers who took his place. It was this abandoned son, sent to Linen at the age of 7. Qin Yu bowed respectfully, "And your insight is profound." My father received news. Helian's mother has passed away. Hearing this, my eyes widened abruptly. Helian entering the palace to report to His Majesty meant he would evade all the Prince of Jinan's spies. During this meeting, Helian must have reached some understanding with His Majesty. No wonder, in my past life, not long after Helian returned, the Prince of Jinan fell ill and died. Alas, at that time Helian had been severely beaten by Zhou Fenyan, that had stalled some of the arrangements above. No wonder Zhou Fenyan's career hit a wall, facing setbacks everywhere in his early years. Lost deep in thought, I hadn't noticed when the conversation in the room had stopped. Lifting my eyes, I met Qin Yu's probing gaze. I even gave him a silly, dazed smile. Madame Qin cleared her throat softly. "Come, I haven't introduced you yet. This is Jiang Yao, your cousin." Even Qin Yu, usually composed, couldn't hide his surprise. "Cousin? But isn't she Fenyan's fiancé?" Mrs. Qin had her public explanation ready. "Fenyan doesn't want to marry her, and Jiang Yu doesn't want to marry him. Once your uncle returns, I'll formally adopt her as my foster daughter. Doesn't that make her your cousin?" I sensed the awkwardness and rose to greet him. "Hello, cousin." Qin Yu's return bow was half a beat late. He then fumbled in his pocket, finding nothing, and could only offer a dry chuckle. "I'll make up for it with a proper meeting gift at the recognition banquet." Madame Qin teased. "You're clever, combining the meeting gift with the name-changing fee." Qin Yu pondered for a moment, then drew a dagger from his belt. "Cousin, take this as a keepsake, but be careful, it's sharp. Don't hurt yourself." Being a personal item, I hesitated to accept it outright. Madame Qin glanced at it and nodded to me. "This is his prized possession. Let him feel a little heartache over it." Qin Yu immediately grimaced, making both Madame Qin and me burst into laughter. After chatting for a while, Qin Yu and I withdrew together. Just as I was about to take my leave with a polite bow, he suddenly called out, "My cousin, you left your earrings at the riding grounds." I happened to pick them up. He pulled out a pair of earrings. They're rubies set in gold, gleaming red, from the side pocket of his tunic. They lay in the palm of his hand. I quickly touched my ears. No wonder something felt off. One was lighter than the other. Thank goodness someone else hadn't picked it up. Just as I reached to take it, a child's cry echoed from outside. Xiao Ling, the gatekeeper's granddaughter, darted in. "The Marquis is back." Because of Zhou Fenyan's fight with someone, I'd completely forgotten the Marquis of Weiyuan was returning today. I instantly forgot about the earring and dashed back home excitedly. Mother. Father's back. With the Marquis of Weiyuan's return, the heir also came back from camp, and the other sons gradually appeared. Only Zhou Fengnian stormed out angrily, his whereabouts unknown. So much so that during the evening meal, the Marquis of Weiyuan announced to his family his intention to adopt me as his foster daughter, leaving only Zhou Fengnian in the dark. The next day, I heard he returned home drunk. At that moment, I was kneeling in the ancestral hall, paying respects to the Zhou family's forebears. The elderly clan elder stood by as a witness. My name was changed from Jiang Yao to Zhou Yao. An adopted daughter differs from an adopted child. Not only does she take the family name, but she is also recorded in the clan registry. When my adoptive parents grow old, I might even receive a share of the Marquis of Weiyuan's estate. I became a legitimate member of the Zhou family. Wealth and prestige were assured. A splendid life lay before me. Invitations to guests were sent out one after another. The banquet was set for the day after tomorrow, primarily to announce the change in status to the outside world. It also served as an opportunity for me to meet my relatives. But none of this required my concern. In her spare time, Lady Qin had a swing hung from the large tree in our courtyard. Bold by nature, I'd swing high, pushing myself to great heights. Occasionally, Lady Qin would take me to try on makeup, often styles she herself had experimented with in her youth. Each time I emerged radiant and vibrant, she beamed with delight. Everything I hadn't experienced in my past life fascinated me. Whenever I emerged in a new outfit, I'd twirl before Lady Qin, reveling in my own beauty. It felt utterly delightful, like being the apple of someone's eye. Lady Qin would murmur admiringly, "How lovely. I wonder which fortunate young man will win your heart someday." I lifted my skirt and drew close to her. "If you can't bear to part with me, Mother, I'll stay by your side forever." Compared to currying favor with that useless Zhou Fengnian, winning Lady Qin's favor meant possessing everything. Whether it was the respect of the servants or the beautiful jewelry, it all made me forget my troubles. A woman's adoration was truly wonderful. Delicious pastries and tea warmed my heart. Madame Qin shook her head and chuckled, "That won't do. I'm no old witch, I can't shield you forever. While I'm still strong, I'll find you a reliable family and help you establish yourself. Only then can I rest easy." I knew Mother was thinking of my future. Clinging to her arm, I cooed, "I'll do whatever you say." Madame Qin scolded playfully, "Why are you always so obedient? A young lady should show some spirit, or she'll be taken advantage of." I nuzzled her. "I'm just smart. I only listen to you." It was effortless to please someone who already favored me. Madame Qin had a heart of gold. Otherwise, she wouldn't have regretted marrying me off to Zhou Fengnian in her twilight years, always believing she'd ruined my life. But that's not true. And no matter how foul-tempered Zhou Fengnian was, he never struck a woman. He wasn't a good husband, but he certainly wasn't a villain. Marrying him was still an opportunity. How many girls of my station longed for that seemingly noisy yet prosperous, stable life? I could run the shop so successfully because the manager sent by Mrs. Qin taught me the ways of making money. There was no ability conjured out of thin air. My flattery toward her wasn't blind adoration either. Every choice I make now benefits from the years of experience I gained interacting with her in my past life. Back and forth, the makeup and attire for the day after tomorrow were finalized. I went into the inner room to change out of my ceremonial gown. Just then, Zhou Fengnian burst in, "Mother, Jiang Yu is my fiancé. How can she become my sister?" So he'd sobered up and learned the truth. Madame Qin countered calmly, "Why not? You may not want this bride, but I want this daughter." Zhou Fengnian fell silent for a long moment, then stubbornly declared, "I refuse." A thunderous clap echoed as he slammed his hand on the table. Madame Qin laughed bitterly. "You disagree? Remember all the slanderous words you hurled at her? She's the daughter of my own life-saving benefactor. For so long, you've unjustly despised her. Since you refuse to care for my benefactor's daughter, I shall do it myself. Now you say you disagree? On what grounds?" "I just disagree. You made her my fiancée, and now without my consent, you want her to be my sister? Have you considered my feelings? Then what do you want? Keep her as your fiancée, or kick her out? These words made my heart, already hanging in the balance, burn with anxiety. Zhou Fengnian, that bastard. His tone was bewildered. I don't know what to do, but making her my sister feels odd. This left Lady Qin silent. She sighed. Go back and think it through. Stop acting on impulse. You're not a child anymore. You should know what it means when words are spoken. They cannot be taken back. And once a move is made, it cannot be undone. His goal unmet. Zhou Fengnian felt a sting of resentment. He provoked Madame Qin into irritation. And she scolded him fiercely. Only then did he leave, sulking. I lifted the curtain and peered out. Mother. You can't kick me out. Madame Qin was boiling with anger. But seeing me, she smiled. Yet her smile faded into worry. Oh. The trouble. He actually has feelings for you. I was surprised too. Zhou Fengnian had rushed over to stop me. Seemingly confused. Clearly, he cared deeply about his fiancée becoming his sister. If his tone hadn't been so hesitant, if he'd simply said he wanted to send me away, I could have assumed he disliked me. But the disappointment in his voice was too obvious. Still, I had experience with this sort of thing, as long as I didn't explain it. He wouldn't figure it out anytime soon. Given enough time, he'd forget about it. Mrs. Qin sighed. I was going to ask if you'd give him another chance. But your analysis is so clear, it's obvious you don't have romantic feelings for him anymore. I knew the invitations had been sent out. But I could always claim they were written in error. Don't even think about it. I thought. My desire to be your daughter is as genuine as gold. Being a daughter-in-law is nowhere near as easy as being a daughter. Little did I expect to run into Zhou Fengnian after leaving. He yanked me into a corner. Do you hate me that much? My back slammed against the wall, and I sucked in a sharp breath from the pain. Hate you? What for? He gave a cold laugh. Did you really think you could fool me like a child? I hadn't figured it out yet. But I knew the invitations were already sent out. There was no time to dwell on it. So I wanted to go back and argue with Mother. That's when I overheard you and her talking about me. Damn it, how did he overhear something meant to stay hidden? I was utterly speechless. I met his gaze. What have you done that isn't despicable? Zhou Fengnian's fury froze. His eyes locked on mine. But no words came out. His voice was strained. You could have stayed in the mansion. Why did you insist on becoming my parents' adopted daughter? He really was spoiled into such innocent cuteness. I felt a bit deflated, to live permanently in the home mansion. I needed a respectable status. But I'd rather not be your fiancé. So being a daughter was the best option. He gritted his teeth in fury. So you really are after wealth and prestige. I rolled my eyes at him. While I do love wealth, my devotion to Mother is as clear as day. I struggled, only to be held tighter. This unsettled me. Let go of me. His eyes flickered. I won't. Unless you go tell Mother you don't want to acknowledge our relationship. I was furious. You're trying to ruin me. Since you overheard my conversation with Mother, you should know I never wanted to marry you. Forced fruit tastes bitter. Why insist on hanging yourself from this crooked tree? I love crooked trees. He drew closer. I insist on tasting that forced fruit. He sneered. If anyone saw us this intimate, do you think the recognition banquet could still proceed? His words whispered close enough to my ear. I gave you a chance. You could stay in the home mansion. But you absolutely cannot become my sister. I turned my head, my hand already reaching for the dagger I carried. A sudden voice cut through the air. What the hell are you doing? Zhou Fengnian, who had pinned me down with his weight, was effortlessly yanked away by the newcomer. Thud. A solid punch. Zhou Fengnian was knocked flying. He lay motionless for a long while. Could he be dead? I froze in place. my legs weakening until I nearly collapsed against the wall. Qin Yu stepped over Zhou Fenyan to stand before me. He seized my wrist, pulling me close to his chest, half supporting me as he led me away from the corner. The Wei Yuan Marquis' estate was vast, and the path grew increasingly desolate. This only heightened my fear, making me want to stop and refuse to go on. Noticing my faltering steps, he simply helped me sit down beside him, crouching close to ask, "Can't go on?" Meeting his concerned gaze, I felt strangely reassured. Thinking of Zhou Fenyan, I grew anxious. Had he been badly beaten? Qin Yu grinned, teeth showing. He gets beaten often. He's not that fragile. That smile was a bit too bright. Only later did I realize, had I gotten too close? I looked down and saw my hand still resting in his. Instinctively, I yanked it away. Oh dear, that reaction was a bit too abrupt. What would he think? Qin Yu also sensed the awkwardness and quickly stepped back. To ease the tension, he asked me, "Should we tell my aunt about this?" This left me deeply troubled. Would telling her even help? No one could control Zhou Fenyan, he suddenly said. Then you should just get married sooner. His words made me look at him. He took out that earring again and handed it to me. What do you think of me, cousin? Seeing I hadn't spoken for a long time, Qin Yu snapped out of it. I was too forward. Oh no, if I dared to agree rashly, who knows what Mrs. Qin would think of me, after provoking her son into doing something foolish, and now provoking her nephew, though I believe Lady Qin is reasonable. I couldn't be certain at this moment. Would she be furious upon learning the truth? But no matter how much I wanted to flee, what was mine had to be reclaimed. I held out my hand. "Give me back my things first." He set down the earring, hesitating to leave outright. "I'll escort you home. From now on, always have attendants with you. Don't meet with him privately. I guarded my reputation carefully and explained. My maid took the clothes for the reunion banquet back first. It wasn't me meeting Zhou Fenyan privately, he was the one who darted out like a ghost. I stamped my weakening feet and stood up. Thank goodness my cousin passed by. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. He nearly used the dagger I'd given him last time to wound Zhou Fenyan. Now that dagger felt even hotter to hold. How could he harbor such feelings toward me? Qin Yu glanced at my hand hanging limply by my side. "I worried you might need this earring, so I planned to have Aunt return it to you." That explanation made no sense. It sounded more like an excuse to see me, especially after saying it. He cast an uneasy glance at me before quickly averting his eyes. I eyed him skeptically. A young lady like me would never lack jewelry. "Cousin." Before I could finish, he choked violently, clutching his fist to his mouth. His gaze on me held surprise. I was utterly baffled. What does cousin like about me? If I knew, I'd see if I could change it. "You are beautiful." His opening line was a letdown. Beauty is innate, that truly can't be changed. Before he finished, compliments poured out. "You're sharp, quick-witted, skilled at seizing opportunities, unafraid of gossip, brave enough to resist. You shine so brightly it's overwhelming. I suspect He Lian was mesmerized by you that day." Such flattery made my face flush. He Lian probably hadn't met a girl this fierce before, right? Suddenly, I understood what they meant by love is blind. My emotions became tangled, impossible to calm. This was the first time someone had looked at me with such bright eyes. It was truly tantalizing. I tossed and turned all night. Everything I'd ignored during the day surfaced clearly in the darkness. My mind was filled with the image of his smile, his strong arms, the warmth of his palm, his direct gaze, that teasingly ambiguous closeness. Before I knew it, I'd fallen asleep. When I woke, I hugged the quilt and smiled for a long while. Then I pushed it all out of my mind. When you have so much, you stop craving fleeting pleasures. The affection of others feels more like a seasoning for emotions. Compared to that, I was more worried about Zhou Fenyan causing trouble at the family reunion banquet. Unexpectedly, the banquet passed without incident, until after the chaos had settled. I saw Zhou Fenyan waiting at the courtyard gate. The evening sun cast its slanting rays upon his silent profile. The gaze he turned back to me was unnervingly steady. That familiar look pierced me like a knife. I don't know how long we stood there, neither of us speaking. His tone held regret. "What a pity. If only I had returned first. I wonder what would happen if he were kind to me. Would I, unaware, let him lead me along? But one thing I know for certain, seeing you is worse than seeing him. The clueless Zhou Fengnian was far easier to deal with. He chuckled softly, you really don't welcome me. Those eyes never left me. They kept staring at me. Don't worry. I'll only stay a moment. I'll leave soon. I couldn't relax. Remaining vigilant. He pulled out a box and handed it to me. This is a gift from my fourth brother. Don't you want it? Unlike the younger Zhou Fengnian, he wouldn't be so cruel as to fill the box with trash. I took it. And immediately after, he embraced me. Before I could react, he stepped back. Jiang Yao. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have treated you that way. After saying that, he smiled. I saw the notebook you wrote. You said you once liked me. Those words left me deeply saddened. I knew affection couldn't last forever. For I too had briefly harbored such feelings. That emotion, eroded by daily belittlement, had scattered like dust in the wind of his words. He sighed. I was despicable. I reluctantly married you, knowing you'd bring no advantage. Yet I despised myself for loving you. Funny how I resisted you my whole life, yet never once considered letting you go. Such feelings are too torturous. This lifetime, I won't be an eyesore. At the time, I didn't understand the meaning behind his words. The next day, I encountered Zhou Fengnian again. Just as I was about to speak, he tapped his cane and arrogantly warned me, don't you dare call me fourth brother. Even from a distance, I could still hear him muttering in frustration. Damn it. Why am I injured again? The servant whined and stammered an explanation. Well, you were drunk and rowdy. The scene you made. It was truly disgraceful. You insisted on sleeping in the same kennel as the dogs. Who knows who taught him such words? But Zhou Fengnian believed them. And that Zhou Fengnian vanished. This Zhou Fengnian seemed to have no memory of that day either. It all felt like a dream. That Zhou Fengnian seemed like a figment of my imagination. Only the bracelet he gave me remained in its box. If I'm not mistaken, it should be the bracelet from Han's Han Temple. Yes. He didn't want me to bear his child. But I had my ways. Alas. Fate was cruel, the child couldn't be saved. Back then, he specially went to Han's Han Temple to get that bracelet for me. At first, I didn't know the bracelet's origin. Later, while praying for that child at Han's Han Temple, I learned he'd been there too. Thinking of this, I turned back. I found the box on the table, grabbed it, and dashed to the kitchenette, flinging it forcefully into the stove. Keeping this thing felt like harboring a ghost. Like Zhou Fengnian's unlucky presence still lingered. Forgetting was best. Zhou Fengnian had forgotten everything. And I no longer needed to rush into marriage. At this thought, I laughed aloud with joy. 1 year, 2 years, passed. Each day unfolded with utter ease. I made many friends outside. Walking the dog, fishing, archery, drinking, horseback riding, shopping. Every day unfolded in this unremarkable way. Until He Lian went mad. He took his father's place, reclaiming the fiefdom for His Majesty. Word came that he wanted the emperor to arrange a marriage. Someone, I don't know who, said He Lian wanted to marry me. So Lady Qin took me to the estate to soak in the hot springs. Only when we arrived did I realize the Qin family was there too. Stripped bare, with nowhere to run. Aunt Qin cornered me. What do you think of our Qin Yu? I wanted to bolt. But my cousin blocked my path with a beaming smile. I could only force a laugh. He's great. This cousin of mine kept showing up before me every other day. He was blunt. I'm afraid you'll get distracted by others and forget about me. I wonder how wonderful I am in his eyes. People outside the family didn't really think much of me. And He Lian wasn't marrying me anyway. After much hesitation, I agreed. Marrying someone else meant I wouldn't have to worry about hurting my family's feelings later. Marrying him meant I had to consider a lot more. But he kept hovering around me, making me crave him for so long. Hesitant because I'd lived 2 lifetimes. I never dared to approach him. Yet he kept offering himself up. On our wedding night, I clung to him, indulging my desires. He was incredibly skilled. So many techniques. Youth is wonderful. Only the young possess such vigor. Past life, Zhou Fengyan side story. Jiang Yu was younger than me. I never imagined she'd leave first. We each lived our separate lives, untouched by one another. But after she left, so many places felt strangely empty. She loved reading, yet the books piled in her study lay untouched. The shops that thrived under her care grew dull and ordinary after her death. The flowers she tended lost their luster no matter how carefully I cared for them. My world has faded since losing her. Finding her daily journal was an accident. Not a thick stack. But the top sheet held her latest entry. I felt as if I were seeing her life in reverse. Her later years were filled with such open-mindedness, while her youth was marked by stubbornness. But what difference does it make? Really? Yet after the child was gone, such feelings were never spoken of again. By the time I gradually realized my own feelings for her, she had already withdrawn completely. Truthfully, after her rebirth, I remained by Zhou Fengyan's side all along. But she couldn't see me. I watched helplessly as she severed her marital bonds. From then on, anyone outside could marry her. Except me. She held not a shred of lingering affection for me. I thought I could stay by her side through the bracelet. Never imagined she'd toss it into the stove. I screamed in agony, yet still faded away uncontrollably. As my consciousness crumbled, I heard her softly laugh. A laugh of freedom. Suddenly, I stopped struggling. I watched her quietly, trying to remember her. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the study. The desk was covered with her daily records. Everything felt like a luxurious illusion. The end.